Hello and welcome to Skills and Automation. My name is Ash and this is a brief how-to video where we'll create a separate sub-procedure to send an Outlook email. Specifically, we'll grab the email details from our main sub and pass it on as arguments into a separate sub which is exclusively designed to send an email based on those arguments. Why do this? It will make our main sub look less cluttered, make it more convenient when sending multiple emails in a loop, and make it easier to manage errors as well. Okay, let's start with the basic email code. Here's the code template that we are going to use. First, we'll add a reference to Outlook. So just come here, Tools, References, and add a reference to the Microsoft Outlook library. Second, we'll create an email object. And third, we'll fill in the email details and send the email. For more information on how to set up this code, please check out the how-to video or the tutorial in the description below. Okay, first we'll start with sending a basic email where we read the email detail of the Excel worksheet. So here we're going to read the to, the CC, and the attachment from just row number 2 and send an email based on those details. Let's start filling in the details. For the folder path for the attachments, email body and subject, we will create constants as these won't change regardless of whom the email is being sent out to. Adding in our constants. We will add a workspace after step 2. You don't need to add all these comments. My purpose here is just to keep the code consistent throughout the session. First, we will dim our 3 variables. Let's assign them to read off the worksheet. But to attach a file, we need the full file path. So let's add or rather concatenate the folder path constant that we have here right on top. So we'll add the constant folder path in front of our attachment and concatenate it back with the attachment. Finally, let's fill in these values into our email properties. Let's see if this works. It does. Great. Moving on. We will now create a separate sub to send this email. The sub will take in our variables as arguments. So let's create the new sub. And we have our to, our CC, and the attached variables as arguments. So now we can come over to our main sub and cut the entire step 2, paste it into our private sub, and cut the entire step 3 as well. And paste that as well into our private sub. And we'll change the variable names to match the arguments that we are passing over here. Constants will remain the same, and change this to PS as well. Come back to our main sub, and for the final bit, we need to call this new send email procedure from our main sub. We will pass in our 3 variables as well. And that's it. We have created a separate sub to send our emails. Let's run this and see if it works. So we are going to run this with our cursor in the main sub. Okay, that seems to be working. Fantastic. Let's now add in some error handling. If there is an error in this new send email sub, we wouldn't want the whole procedure to just break down in debug mode. Rather, we can record the fact that an error has occurred, alert the user of the same, and gracefully exit the whole sub. Alternatively, if there are no errors, we could simply communicate that the email has been sent successfully. For this, first we need to change the sub to a function which returns a true if there are no errors and false if there were errors. So change this to a function which will return a boolean. Before we make any changes out here, let's first change the logic in the main sub. So now, if this function returns a false, we will display a message saying error occurred. And if the function returns a true, that means there was no error when sending the email, and we'll display a message saying sent OK. Okay, coming back to our function, right at the top, we'll put in our error handler. Now, if an error occurs during any point throughout this code, it will go to the line label system error handler, which we are about to define. So if there is an error, the function will return a false. However, If the email is sent and we reach the end of this with statement without any errors, then let's return a true and exit the function. Okay, that's the function. Let's run and see if this works. Okay, so again, come back to our main procedure and run this. Great, the email was displayed and we have a message saying sent. Okay, now let's change this attachment name slightly. So there is no file called statement.csv in my attachment folder. So the send email procedure should run into an error when trying to attach this file. Let's see what happens when we try to run the sub now. We get a message saying error occurred. That's great. So that means the function works well. And for the last part, let's use this function in a loop. Now let's loop over the range of data that we have out here and we'll send an email for each row. The beauty of this is that there is absolutely no change to this function that we have created. To loop over the data, we need to find the last row. We will also create a Boolean variable to capture if at least one error has occurred. And for now, we'll set it to false. Let's create the loop. We'll change these hard codes to the current row. And let's change this logic as well. We don't want to display a message each time an error occurs. Instead, if there are one or more errors, we will just display one message right at the end. So if there is an error when sending the email, this Boolean variable will turn true. And once this loop is done, we will check for the value of this Boolean variable. If it is true, then we'll display a message saying that at least one email wasn't sent. However, if it is false, we will just display a message saying that all emails were sent successfully. And that's it. Let's run this from the main sub. We get a message saying that all emails were sent successfully. That's good news. And we'll come here. We have 1, 2, and 3 emails that were displayed. So everything seems to be working fine. We successfully managed to loop over the data. Let's close all of these. And as a test, let's change the value of this attachment. So obviously this file does not exist. So let's run this code and see what we get. Great. We get an error message that at least one email wasn't sent successfully. Okay. And 2 emails did get generated, which is correct as well. Before ending this video, I just want to highlight that there is so much more that you can do out here with the information that we have just learned. For example, we can populate a column at the end that tells us whether each email for each row was sent successfully or not, instead of just displaying a message that some emails weren't sent. Wouldn't that be handy? Also, it would be a good idea to validate whether these files actually exist or not, or whether this email ID has been entered correctly or not. I have a tutorial which covers all the scenarios and also incorporates what we have just learned. You can check that out as well. Okay, that's it for sending emails through a separate sub. If you want to know more regarding sending Outlook emails through Excel VBA, please check out my tutorial series on sending Outlook emails or my other how-to videos. You can always grab the code that you have seen here from my blog site skillsandautomation.com. Link will be in the description below. Please like and subscribe if you found this video useful. Thanks and see you in the next one.